All eyes apparently just turned to Cleveland, where the failing Browns team has officially received calls for their superstar edge rusher Myles Garrett. But was Philadelphia one of them? Also, why Jalen Hurts' game versus the Giants was near perfect except for these two plays, and how Vic Fangio has completely changed his defense with the help of these two rookies. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. The Eagles are hot off the heels of back-to-back wins the past 2 weeks, and yet the NFL decided yesterday to flex their Week 9 matchup versus the Jacksonville Jaguars out of Sunday Night Football and instead go with Vikings and Colts, which I guess is a better matchup, kind of. Either way, this means the Eagles' only two remaining primetime games are a Thursday nighter in Philly on November 14th versus the Commanders, followed by Sunday Night Football in LA to take on the Rams. Philly also made a roster move yesterday by signing DB Tariq Castro-Fields to their practice squad and moved John Ross to the practice squad IR. Not a big deal, but worth noting. Oh, and Philadelphia just released wide receiver Paris Campbell, which I think is a good indication Anais Smith is ready to rock and will be mixing in at the wide receiver spot. Obviously not as a starter, but another body in there in case the worst were to happen. Still, there's another big move we need to talk about that fans are all waiting on, although first, did you get in on my Nike Kelly Green sweater giveaway happening on yesterday's video? If not, the way to enter, go down below to the link in my pinned comment, watch yesterday's video, comment Saquon, and you'll get entered. That giveaway is probably going to happen on Thursday's show. Now, the NFL trade deadline is exactly 2 weeks away, and the big name starting to be thrown around, at least today, is Browns defensive tackle Myles Garrett. Cleveland is not only 1-5 now, but just lost Deshaun Watson for the rest of the year and still owe him a boatload of money over the next few seasons. Getting picks and, more importantly, cap relief by trading Garrett almost seems like a no-brainer for a team destined for a long rebuild starting in 2025. Now, the big news yesterday is that, according to the Monday Morning Quarterback, teams have started calling the Browns to inquire about Garrett's availability, and so far, Cleveland has not said no. Now, as always, worth noting, there is no official confirmation Philadelphia has been one of the teams that called. I don't want to kind of clickbait you guys into that, but I will say this, there's kind of a hint into knowing if the Eagles will call. Let me explain. First off, worth noting, the only team confirmed to have called so far is Chicago, as GM Ryan Poles reportedly in win-now mode, which I guess makes sense because they have a lot of picks and cap space, but remember back during the Hassan Reddick Jets holdout, how we found out kind of halfway through that Philly actually couldn't trade back for Hassan Reddick due to this obscure NFL rule, basically explaining that you can't trade the same player back to a team for at least 2 more years? Well, multiple Eagle reporters basically hinted a couple of weeks ago during that whole can't trade Hassan Reddick back to Philadelphia time that the reason we know about that rule is because Howie indeed at least made a phone call. And let's say if that's true and Howie was interested in bringing back Hassan Reddick, there's really no reason why he wouldn't at least pick up the phone and make a call for a far superior and much younger Myles Garrett. Also, it's probably the best time of the year right now because the NFL and the NBA starting tonight is officially going on, and my partner Underdog Fantasy wants to take your picks and turn them into cash. Just join me and the millions of fans that played Underdog last year with their Pick'em game, where you could win money by making picks on your favorite players. Essentially, you can win up to 1,000 times your money by just choosing higher or lower on player stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and much more. You can create entries of just NFL picks or just NBA picks or mix and match like I did for my picks this week. Oh, and Underdog, it's available in 30 plus states, including California, Florida, Texas, and where I'm at here in Georgia. Now, as for my picks this week, I'm going to go A.J. Brown higher than 77.5 receiving yards because he's been on a tear so far this year, and I think he's definitely going to hit that versus the Bengals. I'm also going to do higher than 0.5 rush and receiving touchdowns for Devontae Smith. They basically didn't use him last week. I think that means he's going to be targeted a lot this week and catch that touchdown. Joe Burrow, I'm going to go with lower than 255.5 passing yards. Looking at you, Vic Fangio. I think the Eagle defense has been pretty darn good the past couple of weeks. They keep it going against the Bengals. And then let's mix in my NBA pick, which is Tyrese Maxey, higher than 28 points Wednesday night versus the Milwaukee Bucks, which if you with the flex pick, bet $20 like I'm going to do, that'll pay out $202.80. And also throw in the fact that NBA only entry gets a profit boost for Underdog for NBA opening week, obviously, and so there's no better time to play than right now. Underdog really is the place to play, so sign up, drop your deposit, and use promo code MOTT to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash plus a free pick to go ahead and jump in on your NFL or NBA picks this week. The problem, though, with Garrett, as with a lot of star edge rushers, is the cost, which ESPN NFL analyst Benjamin Solak estimated would be significant when he tweeted, quote, "Much like they did with Amari, the Browns have aggressively restructured Garrett's deal, making his dead cap hit enormous if traded. It would take multiple firsts and multiple day 2 picks to get this done." And while I love Myles Myles Garrett multiple first and multiple second or thirds, day 2 picks to get the deal done is a little bit more than I can swallow. Especially with the Birds' young defensive line starting to dominate the past 2 weeks, where names like Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter and even Jalix Hunt have registered numerous sacks and pressures. Something Vic Fangio confirmed today during his press conference that the D-line, they're starting to get comfortable and are really heating up.
Yeah, I think in this past game, it was a good mix of coverage complementing the rush. You know, he had to hold the ball a little longer than he would have liked to, and it gave our guys a better chance and more time to get there. And I do think that was, in this past game, a big part of it.
You had a lot of success with simulated blitzes. What's the key to making those work and having them be so effective?
Calling them at the right time.
It's based on the time,
yeah. They are only 4-man rushes and normal type coverages behind them. So, there's never no guarantee of anything. But if you can hit them right, they do have good effect.
In the end, I would love Myles Garrett. I'd love Max Crosby. I'd love another edge rusher on this team. But you can't look at the past 2 weeks with 13 sacks from the Eagles defensive line and go, what if we hold out, keep our draft picks, and they keep trending up? It's definitely worth keeping an eye on because the trade deadline, as I mentioned, is still a couple of weeks away. Right now, though, I'm out on Garrett for the price. Let me know what you guys think down below. Oh, and one other little trade deadline tip here. Anytime you see something like this, the Eagles reportedly listed as a team that could potentially trade for Titans wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, according to Bleacher Report, just know that's not a real report. That's some beat writer for Bleacher Report suggesting the Eagles should go ahead and trade for DeAndre Hopkins, which honestly, it's super dumb given the fact the Eagles already traded and don't use their wide receiver 3 in Jahan Dotson. But again, there's no extra reporting behind this versus the Garrett report, which does confirm teams are calling. A website suggesting a trade is not a real report and usually doesn't happen 9 times out of 10, so just stay vigilant. Now, speaking of receivers, not mentioned a lot during the game on Sunday was Cooper DeJean locking up the Giant receivers, as DeJean was the highest graded Eagles DB, only allowing 3 receiving yards on 28 coverage snaps. DeJean really has been a game changer on defense ever since subbing in for Avonte Maddox, and Vic Fangio explained today he did a great job, especially in zone looks from that nickel spot.
He played good. We played a lot of zone the other day. So it wasn't like he was on a guy and smothering him out or anything. It was a really big zone game the other day.
Overall, Fangio suddenly has the 7th best defense in the NFL and has dramatically improved from where they were a few weeks ago to where they are, at least coming off of the Giants win. Going from being shredded by Green Bay and Atlanta and Tampa to 0 touchdowns allowed the past 2 weeks is definitely a trend I hope we can continue. Now, another trend I hope we continue is making Saquon Barkley the focus of this offense following his near-career day versus the Giants on Sunday. Getting 176 yards on just 17 carries is exactly the type of workload he needs to stay heavily involved and yet hopefully very healthy. And if you believe Nick Sirianni on WIP this morning, the running identity of this team is not going away anytime soon.
Nick, are we a running football team?
Damn right.
Yes!
I think... I think you saw that anytime you go over 200 yards rushing, you can say that for sure. I think that we've been able to run, since I've been here, we've been able to run the football efficiently.
Saquon has completely changed the dynamic of this offense. They are running through Saquon, and it opens up the passing game, and more specifically, A.J. Brown. Brown leads the league in all categories against single coverage this year, including 3 touchdowns, 325 yards, and a perfect passer rating when targeted. You can thank Barkley for that because he's really the reason why teams are really being forced to single up against number 11. Still, there's nothing better than a Sunday win behind a performance like 26 gave where the film shows an MVP caliber day via this Brian Baldinger breakdown on Saquon Barkley.
So it was Saquon's return, Saquon's revenge game, and it started happening in the second quarter. Excellent push right there by Mackay, Lane Johnson, and he picks up 8. And it would set up this run in the second quarter right here where he's going to go off left tackle right now. And they're going to pull Cam Jurgens. The key blocks are Dickerson and Fred Johnson. And Jurgie gets around on Deonte Banks, and Saquon goes 55. The way a lot of Giant fans had seen him over the years. And he goes 55, and then it would set up his opening touchdown of the game from 3 yards out, which is just a plunge. Just an absolute plunge right here. It's just straight power behind Tyler Steen, right in between the 5 and the 6. And they just pushed him across. Eagles had the lead, 7-0. And then in the third quarter, it just opened up. Like, you watch this right here, and you're going to see his ability right now. Like, here it is. Like, there's the blocks right there. And now, for whatever reason, McFadden went out with the tight end, and Saquon busted it up there for 38 yards. Big explosive runs, setting up another touchdown. And then we get this one right here. Van Sumeren right there. Like, he's the backup linebacker. He comes in as an offset fullback right here, and he's going to get a great block on Okereke right there. Now they got both McFadden and Okereke blocked, and there goes Saquon. Like, he makes the safety miss right there. I think that was Pinnock. And there comes, like, it take all a gang blue to get it down for 41 yards. Saquon's homecoming couldn't have gone any better in an Eagles blowout at MetLife Stadium.
Now, I do think the one area that still needs a little bit of improvement on offense continues to be Jalen Hurts' decision-making. Not that he had a bad day on Sunday, 10 for 14, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. That's about all we can ask for. But really, there were 2 key plays I talked about on my recap show yesterday where he left really points and yards on the field that definitely needs to get cleaned up, as shown here by PHOY's Fran Duffy.
You've got Kenny Gainwell this time running the wheel route. That's the alert for quarterback Jalen Hurts, and he likes it. He's got the wheel route against the linebacker Micah McFadden. We talked last week on the show. This was a matchup I feel like you could take advantage of against this Giants defense. Now, McFadden does a good job. He actually takes a really good angle here, plays over the mesh concept, so he's able to take this route away. If the ball gets thrown right away, maybe you've got Gainwell, but again, the linebacker, he did a nice job. So in my mind, you get off the alert, and now this ball probably should go to Devontae Smith. You see, that's the first progression on this mesh route concept. Then you work the other mesh and the sit route over the middle of the ball. Jalen was just a little late getting off of that. Now, you go to a little bit later, and you get down to the red zone. It's the same play call from a different formation, different personnel grouping, but you've got the mesh with the wheel, and you've got Saquon Barkley. Now, on this one, it looked like Jalen said, oh, you know what? It looks like it's going to be the same matchup. It's going to be Micah McFadden one-on-one with Saquon Barkley, and he's going to have to run out to the perimeter. But the Giants, they had this picked out. They said, you know what, we're not going to play man-to-man here. We're going to pass this off. And so the cornerback, Nick McLeod, he's actually going to fall off and try and take away this ball to Saquon Barkley. Now, this ball probably should have just been out flat, right with some pace, right to Saquon Barkley, almost at the pylon, lead him away from Nick McLeod. But that's not the throw that Jalen wanted to make. He got stuck. The shallow crosses on the mesh, they're taken away. Devontae Smith is taken up. They defended the mesh concepts in the middle well. Now Jalen rolls out of the pocket, and he's forced to throw this one away.
Now, when asked about those 2 plays, Kellen Moore said today during his press conference that, yeah, they need to be cleaned up, but how about that deep ball to AJ, though?
Just playing situational football there. Obviously, we went a little bit aggressive just from a standpoint of, having to throw opportunity on 3rd and 3 and then coming back to a 4th and 3 call. Obviously, they had played fairly tight in the earlier 3rd down situations, and so we felt like there was potential opportunity to get behind them. AJ and Jalen have a phenomenal feel for each other downfield, and obviously they've shown that the last couple of weeks. And so, excellent job by those guys at the end of the day. Excellent by AJ with the release, getting on top of the DB. Jalen to sit in the pocket. There was a little bit of pressure to his right, so to speak, and for him to sit in there, it was an excellent big time throw.
I have no shame in saying Jalen Hurts has definitely regressed since 2022. We all basically can say that, but I think the past 2 weeks have shown kind of the recipe for Hurts to kind of build back up to that 2022 form. Run the football, play action out of it, and look for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith one-on-one against the opposing team cornerbacks. That has been the real key. Pair that with no turnovers, and Hurts can easily get back into the good graces of being the most skeptical Eagle fan, especially with the big win versus the Bengals on Sunday. We have plenty more stuff happening the next couple of days and weeks. Be sure to go ahead and subscribe. As always, go check out yesterday's video to get on the sweater giveaway because I gave it away last week and the person didn't claim it, so make sure you have the notification bell turned on in case you win. That'll be announced on Thursday's show. Again, plenty of stuff happening. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.